to start with Martin Armstrong and the Stablecoin Act, the Guiding and Establishing National Innovation for U.S. Stablecoins. The GENIUS Act is the acronym. This is a monster betrayal by Trump. He said we wouldn't have a CBCD. Now we don't have one, but this is going to blow up crypto, and this is a kind of an act of desperation. Captain Austin Fitz brought this up a week or so ago, saying that it's going to underpin the Treasury market, and I think in the pre-interview you said the same thing. Tell me about the Stablecoin Act, the GENIUS Act, and why it's not going to be so great for us.
Well, what it is really about is that you had Blinken under the Biden administration remove Russia from the SWIFT system. Then he threatened China, if you help Russia, we'll do the same to you. So that created BRICS. And then what happened was China realizes that they're going to be dragged into war. So you basically do not hold the debt of your adversary. So they've been dumping U.S. treasuries. Now, I've said before, historically, how does the collapse of a debt system, governments take place? It's got nothing to do with the empirical level of the debt. I mean, it could be 50, quadrillion. The issue is that you can keep the can going down the road as long as somebody's in line to buy the next tranche. That's the problem. China owned 10% of the U.S. national debt. They're no longer buying. Japan's broke, and they basically need money. They've been selling. Same thing with Europe. So this idea of stable coins is really a repeat of 1863. Why do I say that? To fund the Civil War, they issued national banknotes. The banks were told to buy the bonds. They could buy bonds to fund the war, and they were allowed to issue currency backed by the bonds. This is the same exact thing.
Greenbacks. These
staple coins are the same as the 1863 National Bank Act, really. And we can use those. Everybody will say, oh, see, crypto's legit, it's this. Look, they got people all riled up into Bitcoin. Oh, it's independent of central banks, all this stuff. Total BS. I mean, here you have, the crypto world has basically been usurped. And you can issue these stable coins, and it's the same thing as COVID. The First Amendment says clearly the government shall not. All right? It doesn't stop the government from calling up YouTube, hey, cancel Greg, we don't like what he says. All right?
And they did.
So that's fine, because you have no First Amendment right. It only says the government shall not. Okay? So here you don't have a CBDC because the Fed couldn't look at your account without a search warrant. So what do? They authorize all these banks to issue stable coins backed by U.S. treasuries. Same thing as 1863, all over again. Nothing different.
Except it's on a much greater scale. It is helicopter money, it's global digital helicopter money is what Catherine Austin Fitz said. Would you agree to that?
Well, not yet, but you go into war and then they're going to have to increase the debt, yes. And that's why you don't buy debt during war. So this is going to come down to don't get involved in stable coins during periods of war.
Is this going to work? I mean, what you said in your piece that if this was fully activated and fully functioning, the banks could say, Greg, you don't want to take a vaccine during COVID? Okay, we're going to cut your money off. Is that so they can so what this is going to open the door for is total government control, or am I wrong? Is this opening the door to total government control of your finances?
It's the same as COVID. All right, the government will say, hey, we don't like this guy, cut him out, debank him. All right, the government can't do it directly, so they indirectly do it the other way. Look, I knew a guy, his name was Steve Bumbaka. He was a senior VP of one of the major newspapers in New York. I think it was the New York Post, I don't remember. They put him in jail for like 18 months or something, and for hiring ghost employees. That was the nonsense. And he said, basically, he explained to me, he says, look, the government calls, they say we have a favor. Spin this story this way or that way or kill it. If you do not, they come after you personally. They don't go after the newspaper. This is how they control the press.
Wow.
All right, so it's the same thing. It's always the same agenda. All right, so
they didn't come after me. They didn't come after me personally at ABC News and CNN, but here I was doing. I don't mean to sound like I'm patting myself on the back, but I was breaking big stories. I was getting big numbers. I was told this.
Yeah.
And so instead of coming after me personally, they just went, hello, Bob. Yeah, you got to get rid of him. His contract's due when? Okay, don't renew it. Right? I mean, I was telling people in March of 2008, there's going to be a big blow up. It's going to blow up. And what happened in October of 2008? They didn't get rid of me because I was wrong. My sources said that, like people like you. But anyway, back to you. Enough about me.
Look, this is the way it goes. They've been controlling the press that way. They control everything that way. It's all indirect.
You think that they can indirectly control your finances, though? I mean, what? Tell me. Give me your statement on can they or can they not indirectly control your financing with this new Genius Act?
Yeah, look, I know guys that are gun dealers, bullion dealers. They've been debanked. This is the world we're going into. They know they are losing power. Europe is even far worse. Spain just, did the whole thing. You can't take out more than 3,000 out of your account without government permission. They're trying to eliminate cash. So when they eliminate the cash and they go to completely CBDCs in Europe, that's it. You have money there, you cannot get it out. That's it, done, finito.
And what about here in America? They'll have stable coins. And the banks will, so that they'll be able to call up the banks and say, oh, Jamie, you can figure out who that is. Jamie, we don't like such and such XYZ company, and they're a holder of, they have accounts in your bank. Well, we want you to kill that. And then Jamie can just kill it?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It's, they get to the point, they all have in their little rule books, if you read their fine print of, regulations, rights to use this, that, or they can basically, look, you didn't shovel your sidewalk from snow. That's dangerous. It's a threat to society. We're closing your account.
Wow.
Read the fine print for a safety deposit box. If you had cash and stuffed it in there, they can call that money laundering. 20 years in prison. You're hiding money from government, even if you pay taxes on it. I mean, look, this is what you end up with. Our computer has been projecting going into 2032, as you know. What does that mean? It means the forms of government we have today are going to collapse. Republics. Republics are the most corrupt form of government, period. All right? They're supposed to represent us rather than a direct democracy. They don't represent anybody but themselves and the people pulling their strings. That's it. You look at the hypocrisy. They say, oh, Putin's a dictator. Really? He at least stood for election. Ursula, head of Europe, has never stood for an election ever. All right? The commission that makes all the laws, unelected. Zelensky, unelected. All right? I mean, come on.
It's unbelievable. I know you have an office over there, and we want to get to that in just a minute. Before we move off the crypto thing there, I had Ed Dowd on. He was saying people are going to miss this. Gold is now a tier 1 asset, and they're going to borrow against it. And so I said, so they don't want that asset to be 3,300 or whatever it is. They want it to be 33,000. He goes, that's where it's going. It's going to go up. They're going to borrow against it. Tier 1 assets, Treasury, tier 1 asset. Gold, tier 1 asset. Silver, tier 1 asset. So they're going to use these stable coins, and they're going to also have gold in some of these gold stable coins, a tier 1 asset. Mm-hmm. Is this bullish for gold and silver and tangible assets?
Well, not for that reason. I mean, gold basically goes up during periods of uncertainty and war. So, I mean, that's why it's been going up.
You'd be a buyer of gold and silver. Forget stablecoin. For all the other stuff, you'd be a buyer of gold and silver right now.
Yeah, look, I mean, in 1934, when FDR confiscated gold, he didn't go knocking on everybody's house. What he did was he went after the institutions. And most people don't realize, but even the Federal Reserve had to turn over its gold to the Treasury.
Wow.
So every bank had to turn it over. All right. There were lawsuits that even went up to the Supreme Court. They're called the gold clauses. You can read those. But effectively, they told the bank, you turn over all the gold you have. All right. And you deposit a $20 gold piece. Well, it was $20. Here's your $20 greenback. All right. They didn't confiscate gold from everybody's house. That's why, you have plenty of $20 gold pieces still around. All right. But if it was in an institution, a bank account, you name it, they had to turn it over to the Treasury. So my point is, gold in a staple coin? No, thank you. Gold in a official storage facility? No, thank you. They just will tell them, hey, you got to turn it over. And they will. They have no choice. All right, so personally, I would say, I prefer the old silver coins rather than silver bars. Same thing with gold. I mean, just be careful about, where it's at. That's it. If it's in a major institution, it can be turned over.
So Marty Armstrong would say, physical gold, Eagles, and 1920, and $20 gold pieces and silver coins. Thank you. That's a thank you.
Yes, that's it. I mean, don't go giving it to any bank or anything like that to hold or a safety deposit box. You may never get to it.
So a counter to the Stablecoin Act, just get medieval. Just buy precious metals. Just buy coins to counter this.
I've said for a long time our computer has projected that we may not even have a 2028 election. Things are getting very dicey.
And when people lose their faith in government, gold and silver shine.
Yes, that's why you go to that. It's neutral. All these people that, the central banks are buying gold, they're not bullish, they're not traders. They don't care if it goes down in price. Why do they buy? Very simple. All right? It's neutral. If they hold U.S. treasuries and you go to war with the U.S. is not going to pay. It will default on them. You move to gold to be neutral. That's it. I advise a lot of central banks, so I know exactly what's going on. And, people go, oh, they're buying gold, so it's going to go up. They're not traders.
The common person, if you have the money, buy some silver, buy some gold, don't overthink it.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's not an investment to market every day. All right, it's going to go up, it's going to go down. Nothing is a store of value per se. Okay, everything fluctuates, it rises and it falls. Don't matter what it is, real estate, gold, stock market, Bitcoin, you name it. This propaganda, oh, it's a store of wealth. How is it a store of wealth if it goes up and down? Then everything is. All right, so just understand that it's fine. You're looking at it from the long term. You're not looking at it. Gee, it went up $100 this week, so I made $100. Oh, it went down $200 next week, so I lost money. That's not that's not what it's for, and that's not what you're doing. All right, you're just stashing some away, and it's for the long term.
Just set your gold and silver, set it and forget it.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically it. It's just a buy and hold type thing. You want to trade, make money, that's gold futures.
Yeah. And then this is from, just to remind people, this is a guy that's in demand all over the world, okay? Central banks ask him, presidents, premiers, members of parliament, members of Congress. These are people that look for your advice all over the world. And you're somebody saying, hey, man, I got 2 years of food. Mm-hmm. You're still pitching 2 years of food.
Yeah, look, there are going to be food shortages. The world is turning more towards a cooling period rather than a warming period. Just look at all the activity coming out of the Ring of Fire. My concern there, the real wild card, is you get a couple of volcanoes that go off in the 7 category. And go on Amazon and buy the book. I think it was 1816, The Year Without a Summer. Krakatoa went off and it was snowing in New York City in July.
Wow.
It throws so much ash up in the air, crops fail. That's what brings the diseases. They correlate together. The Black Plague, etc. There was, Napoleon invades Russia. He lost because of 2 volcanoes. They go off, made it so cold, he lost, 2/3 of his army from the cold. I mean, it's, nature has its own little way of messing up things, and, look, you can read even, in the 6th century, there was a major volcano eruption, and the historian said we didn't see the sun for months. Same thing, crops failure. When the crops fail, what happens? Disease rises because people are malnutrition. All right, so the more susceptible to disease. That's when you get all the plagues and stuff.
Okay, I got it. I'm going to come on here and talk about, just briefly, my sponsor. And this is pretty amazing. It's the Ultimate Spike Detox. It gets so focused. The extra strength, four times more nattokinase. It's for spike proteins. And where are the spike proteins coming from? Well, all these shots produce spike proteins, these CV-19 bioweapon shots, and they produce them for a long time. This just happened this week. This is why people need to have a detox. This just happened this past. You can't make this up. And this is from a big scientist at Johnson & Johnson. A lot of people took it because, well, it wasn't mRNA, but they had, according to Karen Kingston, 7 different individually licensed and patented spike proteins for Johnson & Johnson to choose from. Okay? What do they put in there? Who knows? But here's what their chief scientist says. This is from O'Keefe Media Group. Johnson & Johnson lead scientist confesses J&J COVID vaccine was not safe and effective. Lack of research. You wonder why people need a spike detox? Just so you know, that these shots, according to Karen Kingston, are self-replicating and self-amplifying. Let that sink in. If you took the shots and you think it's going to wear off, it's not self-replicating, self-amplifying. How about a little science to back that up? Yale University just recently did a study on the last shot that people got, and then 709 days later, what are they still producing? Spike proteins. This is why the wellness company, Dr. Peter McCullough loves this. It's extra strength, 4 times nattokinase. There's a bromelain. There's a curcumin in here. Let me make sure that's absolutely correct. Yes, bromelain. Turmeric, I'm sorry. It's a fantastic product. Dr. Peter McCullough, a cardiologist, just extraordinary, also the chief science officer on the wellness company. You get a promo code sUSAWatchdog. You get 15% off. You can get more discounts if you become a member, which a friend of mine did and said, wow, that's a good deal. You basically get a free membership because of the discounts. That's what he said. But anyway, just so you know, promo code sUSAWatchdog, 15% off and free shipping. Back to Martin Armstrong. Let's get into war. What is it good for? Yes, no, absolutely nothing. And so we've been through the Genius Act. Medvedev, who was the president of Russia at one time, he's a big political figure still in Russia. Medvedev advises Putin to start World War III before Trump's 50-day ultimatum. This is your headline. Also, you have your private blog, NATO, Trump war. You've predicted before Ukraine disappears, and it looks like it is disappearing. Another headline from you. I just want to get this out. War is coming. NATO wants to send 250,000 troops. This is another one of your headlines. That's a paid report, I think. Also, and this right here, I mean, the things that are being said, if we're not heading towards war, that you're not paying attention. And neither is the lying legacy media. Kremlin blast hostile U.S. talk of NATO quickly seizing Kaliningrad. That's in the Baltics. Russia has blasted recent comments by top U.S. General Christopher Donahue, a U.S. Army Europe African commander, who boasted about NATO's claimed ability to swiftly capture Russian Baltic enclave of Kaliningrad if military action is deemed necessary. This is just happening just now. This just in the last few days. And with this 50-day ultimatum, Martin Armstrong, you were advising Trump to get out of NATO. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. War is coming. Am I wrong? Tell us what you think what's happening with war. Is war coming?
Well, what's really happening and the press is not reporting is that Russia is on the verge of basically a major victory. Ukraine is collapsing. And this is why NATO is contemplating sending in 250,000 troops. Let's be honest here. I mean, what's going on, there was a meeting July 10th and 11th. They agreed to put in $12 billion into Ukraine. And what's really taking place here is that NATO, Ukraine can't join NATO, so what they're moving towards is a humanitarian effort. All right, and that was the excuse to go into Bosnia in 95 and then Kosovo into 1999. All right, neither had any NATO relationship, yet they invaded, and they were bombing the hell out of the Serbs because they supported Russia against the Armenians. All right, and this is what's taking place. I am very concerned about this. I had been speaking with I won't say who, but somebody very high up and close to Trump. And I had said, look, we got to get out of NATO. They're going to create a false flag to drag us in. And I thought, they're going to look at me like I'm crazy, but they actually said, we agree. We should get out of NATO. Now, that was maybe 2 months ago. And it seems as though the neocons, in my opinion, have succeeded in getting control of Trump. I'm very disappointed in that. You got Lindsey Graham out there boasting, we'll do this to Russia. Really, they act as if we can wipe out Russia in a heartbeat, and they will never be able to do anything to us. This is the attitude. You had Kinzinger, basically, who was on the J6 committee, a staunch neocon. So he actually came out and said we could conquer Russia in 3 days. Honestly, this is, Europe is falling apart. There are two economies in the world that are actually shrinking in size. That is Japan and Germany. Germany constituted 25% of the EU GDP. They put in COVID. Then they did the climate change nonsense. And then they put in the sanctions against Russia. All right? They have basically really undermined their whole economy. You saw, tens of thousands of people protesting at Volkswagen. They said you can no longer produce, gasoline cars. They have to be electric. I mean, they don't look at anything. This is our agenda. We're going to do this. And
I guess they need to have a leopard.
The economy.
I guess they need to have a battery-powered leopard tank. But I digress. I want to get back in here with you with this. This is, I have a friend of mine who's a big Bible guy, and I know you're a brother, and I don't mind saying that, but I'm a brother. And I was having a conversation about King in the North, Daniel, King of the South. And the King of the North early on gets whacked, and then they reconstitute, and they come back stronger. Sound familiar? And then the King of the South, which King of the North is Russia, and the King of the South in Daniel is US, UK. And then the King of the South keeps prodding the King of the North, and the King of the North unleashes on the King of the South. And it doesn't completely wipe him out, but it makes him not a global power ever again. Are you seeing that? Is your computer seeing this?
Well, yeah. I mean, our computer doesn't read the Bible, but it is projected by 2032. U.S. will not be the financial capital of the world. We're blowing that, and it's the financial capital will move to China. It's ironically Russia and China. The people have experienced communism. They do not want to go back. In Europe, they're still walking around celebrating Marx and socialism. Their GDP is a fraction, of U.S. growth. And all we get from in the United States is very polarized. It's always tax the rich, tax the rich. This is all Marxism.
This is Mamdani, and the New York mayor. Everybody thinks that's a great idea. We have grocery stores, we can just get free stuff, and then who cares about who? We'll just take it from the rich. But I want to get back to this 50-day time limit that Trump put on, just like he did a 60-day time limit in Iran, and then he bombs the daylights out of them, right? Now we find out only one of 3 nuclear sites really was completely wiped out. But what do you think about this 50-day time limit, which is not 50 days now? What do you think about that? I mean, is this why Medvedev is saying, let's attack now?
Yeah, look, I mean, I can't blame them. Look, there isn't a prayer in hell that the West will ever accept anything from Russia. You had the Minsk agreement. Russia signed it, okay, and they never honored it. You had Merkel come out and said, well, we never intended to honor it. We were just buying time for Ukraine to build an army to start basically World War III.
So fast forward to today. Fast forward to the day. Do you expect them to nuke us? Do you expect them to? I mean, this 50 days is a big deal. What, at the end of 50 days, is Trump's going to go, well, I'm just kidding, we'll have some sanctions. I mean, this is a big, Lindsey Graham was quoted as saying something to the effect of, if you want to see what's going to happen, call the mullahs. I mean,
I know.
So, what do you think? Do you think that we could have some sort of a nuclear exchange soon?
I don't know if it's going to be nuclear, but our computer's been forecasting starting in August that this whole thing is going to be escalating up. Our computer has what we call a panic cycle on our war cycles for 2026. That is not good. All right. I don't know what the hell Trump is smoking right now. If he's listening, he's endorsed Lindsey Graham. Why? I have no idea. Lindsey Graham, there's tapes of him sitting there with Zelensky saying, this is the best money we ever spent to kill Russians. I mean, if he said that about blacks or Muslims, that would be hate crimes. How come it's not when you're talking about Russians?
So people should, I mean, when your computer kicked out this thing that it was, you've been talking about this for a while. That we saw that August would be the time. Well, that 50 days up is up sometime in the end of August, is it not?
It's in September, and that's where it all starts.
In September. Well, if it's up at the end of August, I mean, are they going to wait until we're flying B-2 bombers over to drop 6,000-pound bombs on them? Or but anyway,
I don't know what the hell.
The point I wanted to make was your computer came up with this months ago, long before this 50-day deadline. Your computer said end of August, basically August when it starts heating up, and this deadline happens in early September sometime, right?
Yeah, look, I stood up at our 2011 WEC conference. You can look at the videos. I said our war cycle is turning up in 2014. All right, that was the Ukrainian Revolution. 2013, you can search it. I put on the blog. The computer is highlighting this is going to start in Ukraine. All right. This is not my personal opinion. Nobody can be this right all the time. All right. The computer's monitoring absolutely every market, currencies, stock markets, bonds globally. All right. It's doing far more than any individual could possibly do. All right, it's been phenomenal in its forecasts, and it's not something that I like personally. I said plenty of times I've done everything I can to try and beat my own computer, and I always lose. But it's been projecting war. That was it. We're going into 2026. This is not looking good. Europe will lose. Simple as that. And I don't know what the hell they're smoking over there. But I can tell you that, look, I've been to dinner with some of these neocons. Bill Kristol, his father even started the neocon movement. All right, he even spoke at one of our conferences. So I had arguments with him back in the 90s. He said if we take out Saddam Hussein, Assad out of Syria, and Gaddafi will bring peace to the Middle East. I said, you're out of your mind. I said, have you ever been there? It's tribal. It's not countries. All right? And, you can look online, General, Wesley Clark. He said the same thing. After 9/11, he went to the Pentagon. They told him they were going into Iraq. He asked, you tied Saddam to 9/11? They said, no, we're just going in. And then they told him they intended to go into 7 other countries to conquer the rest of the Middle East. And he was upset about it. He said, since when is the military no longer to defend our country but to overthrow other countries? Yeah, and his speech is on YouTube.
I want to
2007.
This is going to heat up before 2026 because what do you envision happening at the end of this 50-day deal, which we only have like 30 some odd days left? What do you envision happening? I mean, Medvedev is saying strike now. I mean, this is. I don't think people are getting how serious this is. I mean, the last time they pulled this, they had a massive bombing campaign in Iran. I'm sure they're still pissed about it. But this is unlike anything I've ever seen before. There's no president's ever done this before. Man, to Russia, especially to Russia. So lay out what you what are your fears about this 50-day, the expiration of this 50-day deadline?
Look, I've been dealing in geopolitics for over 40 years. You do not threaten somebody who is your adversary of the same level, all right, publicly. All right, you want to say something like that, you do it privately on a phone call. All right, you do not do that. Now what will happen is that Putin cannot possibly, all right, sign a peace deal. What are you, crazy? In 50 days? We have staff in Germany, all right? I was told directly from our own staff, a friend, 60 years old, was told to report to duty. I had another friend who attended and was at the Vienna Peace Conference. He called me when he walked out. He said, holy shit. He says, this has got nothing to do with peace anymore. It's all about preparing for war. And everybody to get ready for drafts and start going that way. They want war.
Well, and
you're not backing off. There's no way. If I'm Putin, I'm not signing any deal. I did that once with the Minsk agreement. You built up an army to attack me. All right? They're doing the same thing right now. They're building up armies all over the place.
Yeah, I just want to bring this on. This is one of your headlines here of the 250,000 troops that they want to send. And Mertz says there's no room left for diplomacy in Russia's war. I mean, they're making public statements of, we're going to have a war. And these are pretty much paper tigers compared to, I mean, they're going to have to, I don't think Germany has nukes, but France is going to have to use its nukes. And then what happens to the world? Do we not
offered nukes to Germany? Look, they're all completely insane. Really completely insane at this stage in the game. But the problem is economically. They are losing their shirt. All right, because they never designed the euro correctly to begin with. I've said that before. I was called in, sat down with them back in 98, said this is where we create a currency, you got to consolidate the debt, and then it's be equal with the dollar. They couldn't do it. Helmut Kohl of Germany didn't allow the German people to vote, and he admitted before he died that he acted like a dictator, and if he allowed them to vote, Germany would have never joined the euro, and he would have lost 7-3. So he took Germany into the euro unilaterally. All right, where I was meeting with them to create the friggin' euro. All right, I told them this is not going to work long term. I was told in 98, we just have to get the euro in to create the bureaucracy. We'll worry about the debts later.
If they don't
6 years later, they haven't done anything.
If they don't have war, and now we're at that point that you warned about. If they don't have war, what happens?
It falls apart. All right.
Describe what happens.
Understand it this way.
Describe what happens if they don't have war. How does it fall apart?
If California went bust, all right, the traders are going to say, oh, what state is next? They're not going to look at the feds. In Europe, because you never consolidated the debts, when Greece went down in 2010, what did the traders do? Oh, who's next? Oh, Spain. And you start going and it becomes a contagion. Any EU country now that gets in trouble, it will create a contagion for all of them. This is the problem. And pension funds must have 70% of government debt, on average. All right? Then they took the interest rates to negative in 2014. I warned the ECB. I said, "Were you out of your mind? You're now going to be strip mining the reserves of banks who must have government debt and pension funds. It goes in one ear and out the other." All right? They never, ever, there are no traders. These are all just bureaucrats.
You've said that that Europe will lose and lose badly. Do you have any addendum to that prediction? Is it becoming clearer to you? This is before you thought Trump was going to sidestep this, and obviously he's not. I don't dislike the guy. I voted for him 3 times, but I don't like this. But do you have any addendum, any further insight into Europe losing this war?
Yeah, they will not survive. I mean, it's what's happening is that they have a choice. They go to war with Russia, or if they don't, their own debt markets are going to kill them. All right, this is why we're doing the whole stablecoin thing. If you cannot continue to borrow to pay off the old debt, you default. This is where Europe is as well. Everybody used to buy the bonds from Germany. Well, Germany's no longer into austerity. All right? Oh, we need more money to build an army. They're going into deficits. Mertz, the rest of them, oh, we're beyond diplomacy. The neocons, I can tell you, as I've argued with them for decades, all right? I was in D.C. doing some work for the Reagan administration. And when Gorbachev made his speech and Reagan wanted to go meet him, the neocons told him at that stage, oh, they couldn't call him a communist, so they said, you can never trust a Russian. Reagan said, take it, stuff it, and he went. Otherwise, the Berlin Wall would never have fallen, all right? This is their attitude. And what they do is, the number one thing they instruct people, do not ever talk to the enemy. Why? Because there might be a peace deal. All right? So when Trump spoke to Putin, he was the only leader out of Europe that even bothered to call him. So you got Mertz, oh, this is beyond diplomacy. Did you even pick up the phone and try?
Oh, that'd be breaking the rules. That's breaking the rules.
Exactly. None of them. Not Stammer, none of them. Nobody wants peace.
This is bleak. People are fumbling down, watching Downtown Abbey and watching baseball and having birthdays and going on vacation. And they don't have. This is dire.
Look, I mean, I wish I was wrong. And it's, I'm looking. I just did an interview in Netherlands. We were talking about this. I said, has any politician from Netherlands picked up the phone and called Putin? No. What are you going to do?
They want war. And not only do they want it, but Martin, I don't see how anybody with 2 neurons touching together can't see that we're on our way to a destructive, murderous war.
Look, I'll tell you this. What I've heard from behind the curtain in Western Europe, when I've said, you don't really give a shit about the Ukrainian people, otherwise you would have been seeking peace. What I heard, what the hell? They were all communists before anyhow and Nazis. They don't care. I know somebody that went down to the second Romanian elections. Macron was there. They interfered in the first one. Why? Because NATO's building the biggest plant or base there in Romania to attack Russia. This is why the people voted against it. They overthrew the election. Macron went there to make sure it stayed that way.
I mean, Russia's going to have no choice but to nuke that base. They're going to have to nuke some of these places. Am I wrong?
I don't, look.
Can they avoid nuclear war? Can we avoid nuclear war at this point?
Not with the people we have in power. Simple as that. I used to have more faith in Trump. I think that's kind of out the window too. And let me explain. I mean, I was in the middle of the regime change back in 2000, which ended up bringing Putin to power. And Putin is probably the smartest man at the table. And what's going on is he understands the game. He has put down red line after red line, and NATO keeps crossing it, hoping he will attack something in NATO so they can say, see, he's the aggressor. He said, what was the last one? No long-term missiles to be given to Ukraine. That's our red line. They did. They started shooting the missiles in there. All right, come on, attack, do something. Putin didn't take the bait. They tried to assassinate Putin. All right, why? They know what I know. Putin is very responsible, very smart. If you remove him, you get Medvedev, all right? Or another neocon who will respond emotionally. That's what they want. All right? Oh, you did this, that's it, I'm pushing the button. It's Putin's the only one saving the world right now. He's at least not a neocon, and he's not a communist, and he's not one of the oligarchs. And the last words, of Yeltsin to him, protect Russia. And that's what he has tried to do. And NATO, I've seen the internal memos, all right? NATO should have been shut down when communism fell, the same way as the Warsaw Pact fell. Why do we need NATO? The internal memos, they were concerned about all the money going to climate change, and like any government agency, education, USAID, you name it. When you create an agency, they will fight tooth and nail to stay alive.
Just like AI. Just like AI.
The memos I saw from NATO, how do we remain relevant? They only remain relevant, they only keep their jobs and keep their pensions. Oh, Putin wants to invade Europe. It's the same bullshit, as if he's a communist of the days of Khrushchev. We will bury you. That was philosophical. All right, that was communism is better than capitalism. That's gone. All right. Conquest is got to be profitable. All right, there's nothing there in Europe for Russia to gain. Period.
They're going to but there's no way. You're counting. Your computer is saying war, nuclear war, sooner than later. There's no getting around it.
I
say it again. You can't what?
I can't stop it. I've done my best. I've yelled and screamed on the top of the roof, and everybody.
People should plan on nuclear war.
Plan it. Look, this is coming. If I understand Medvedev's, advice to Putin. I put on the blog. I said, all right. Somebody asked me, well, what would your advice be to Putin? Basically, what I wrote, I said, I would instruct. Zelensky has 31 days All right, there must be an election, and he has to resign and stand for election. Let the Ukrainian people vote for themselves. All right. What I hear from Ukrainians, people that we had even 2 employees in Ukraine, are we allowed to have peace without permission from London, Paris, and Washington? They're not in charge of their own country. Zelensky won't stand for election or anybody else. And he just takes orders from, basically, mainly from London. I can tell you that the military was told to go to the border with Russia. They thought they were going to protect the border. When they got there, it was MI6 that gave the instructions to invade the Kursk region. Again, maybe now Putin will attack. They have crossed every single red line trying to get him to respond. And he does not do so emotionally. So that's why the last-ditch effort, Zelensky tried to assassinate him. Send drones after his helicopter.
But if they do...
I figure if they take him out, then you'll get a neocon, and he will attack, and then we got World War III.
If they do attack the Russians, if Putin does, it'll have to be overwhelming. It'll have to be overwhelming. It won't be just a little shot.
The only way I could see this is if they refuse to honor the Minsk agreement and hold an election in 31 days. That's what I would give them. Then I will give them 2 weeks to get out of Kiev because I'm going to nuke it. NATO will probably then say, oh, you do that when we're going to nuke Moscow. And I would say, okay, no problem. Every capital of Europe is now targeted. All right? And if Trump sticks his nose in, okay, Washington, New York, Chicago, and LA are now targeted. Is this where you want to go?
Wow.
Maybe it takes something like that to get everybody off their damn ass to remove these people from power. Lindsey Graham should not be anywhere close to government power.
What would you tell Trump right now? Because Trump is sending more missiles into, and I will close with this because it seems pretty bleak to me. Nuclear war is coming. What would you tell Trump? What would you tell him right now to say, hey, listen, you've sent these, now he's sending these defensive weapons, these Patriot missile batteries, which could supposedly take, dozens of people per battery to operate. We're putting our boots on the ground there. What would you tell Trump right now to try to ratchet this down?
You get the hell out of Ukraine. You tell Zelensky must step down and do an election. If you're not willing to do a democratic process, then you're taking us into World War III.
Martin Armstrong.
Simple as that. Zelensky does not represent the Ukrainian people. He takes his orders from London, and you take when Zelensky came over to the White House, all right, that turned into a big, food fight, basically. I had information, Boris Johnson hopped on the plane 3 days before he was in Kiev, and he instructed Zelensky. It was supposed to be a signing in Kiev. All right, he instructed Zelensky to insist that he go to the White House and embarrass Trump to keep the money flowing for war. That's what I was told. I passed on that information, and that's why you saw basically a food fight in Washington.
Trump said to Zelensky, you sign a deal or we're out. And you know what? We're not out. We're in deeper.
Exactly.
So what would you tell people? I don't know why somebody in the White House press corps doesn't ask that. You said, it was his exact quote. You sign a deal or we're out. And we're still in. But I would ask you, I would close with this. If I'm watching this interview, I'm thinking, what do I do? What is it, the normal person? How can the normal person, what would you tell them some simple things to do? I mean, is it like gold, silver, gun, food, water? I mean, is it something that simple?
Pretty much. I mean, it's be prepared, because once that if you're in Europe, the first bullet that's going to be shot, you're looking at complete capital controls. You're not going to get anything out. Food, things of this nature, they naturally go into rationing during periods of war. So I think you should have some stacked away. Look, I've done everything I can to defeat my own computer. It's always right. I'm the one that's wrong. All I can say is, look, I tried. To be able to look at myself in the mirror, I got to at least say I gave it a shot.
What's the percentage you'd give this? What percent? How much percent would you say is no war, and how much percent would you give war?
100% war.
Your conference is going to be November. It's going to be live streaming. I don't know if people will be able to travel by then. I don't know what's going to happen. That's going to be well past the 50-day limit. Your website is Armstrong Economics. Thanks for the tutelage on the Genius Act. And thanks for the tutelage on revealing what your computer says. You've been talking about Ukraine would disappear as a country. That's looking like that's going to happen. You're talking like Europe is going to lose a big war with Russia. We may be drug in with them. Anyway, thank you for coming on and updating us. Even though the news is bleak, to be forewarned is to be forearmed. And I want people to just be ready. And thank you so much for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com.
Well, thank you. Send a letter to your congressman and senator and say, get the hell out of this.